Hello, my dear friends, and a very warm welcome back to the English Listening Library. I hope you are all having a very peaceful and productive day. Today, I want to share with you a story that is truly legendary. It is a story about a woman who was a queen, a scholar, and a leader. She lived more than 2,000 years ago, yet her name is still remembered by everyone today. She was famous for her beauty, but she was even more famous for her incredible intelligence. She was a woman who could speak many languages and solve complex problems. However, her life was never easy. It was a journey filled with deep love, great power, and constant danger. Can you imagine for a moment living in a magnificent golden palace right by the deep blue sea? Can you imagine meeting the most powerful and feared men in the entire world? This queen did all of this and more. Her name was Cleopatra. If you find value in learning English through powerful historical stories like this, please take a moment to subscribe to our library. Your support helps us continue to bring these beautiful and educational journeys to you. Now, let us take a slow, deep breath together and travel back in time to the ancient world of Egypt. The story of Cleopatra begins in the year 69 B.C. in the spectacular city of Alexandria. At that time, Alexandria was one of the most beautiful and modern cities in the world, sitting right on the edge of the Mediterranean Sea. It was a place of tall, white buildings, wide streets, and a library that was famous for holding almost all the knowledge of the human race. Scientists, artists, and deep thinkers from all over the world traveled to Alexandria just to learn. Cleopatra was born into this world of knowledge. Her father was King Ptolemy XII. Although they ruled Egypt, Cleopatra's family was actually Greek. They had come to Egypt hundreds of years before with Alexander the Great. They had ruled the land of the Nile for almost 3 centuries. In her family, the traditions were very strict and often strange. Brothers and sisters were expected to rule together, and sometimes they even married each other. But this tradition also created many terrible problems. Brothers fought against their brothers, and sisters fought against their sisters. In the royal palace, everyone was hungry for power, and no one knew who they could truly trust. As Cleopatra grew up, she spent much of her time studying. She did not just want to be a queen who sat on a throne, she wanted to be a leader who understood the world. She loved learning and spent countless hours in the great library of Alexandria. She learned to read and write in many different languages. Most of the kings and queens in her family never bothered to learn the local Egyptian language. They thought it was not important, but Cleopatra was very different. She worked hard to master the Egyptian tongue because she truly wanted to talk to her people and understand their hearts. She wanted them to love her as their true queen. She also studied advanced science, mathematics, music, and philosophy. She asked difficult questions and read every book she could find. People in the palace began to whisper that she was the smartest person in the royal family, and perhaps she was the most intelligent person in all of Egypt. She knew that in a world of powerful men, her mind was her greatest weapon. But even with all her intelligence, Egypt was in great trouble. The country was no longer as strong as it used to be. Far away in Italy, the city of Rome was growing into a massive and powerful empire. Roman armies were conquering every country they reached, and everyone lived in fear of them. Egypt was a very rich country, but it was militarily weak. Cleopatra's father knew this very well, so he tried to be friends with the Romans by giving them enormous amounts of money and expensive gifts. However, the Romans did not respect him. They even laughed at him and called him the flute player. When Cleopatra was only 18 years old, her father passed away. This was the year 51 B.C., and suddenly Cleopatra was the queen. But there was a big problem. According to the law, she had to share the throne with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, who was only 10 years old. Cleopatra was strong and smart, and she did not want to share her power with a young boy who was being controlled by greedy and dangerous advisors. At first, it seemed like they could rule together, but Cleopatra was the one making all the real decisions. She talked to foreign leaders, managed the country's money, and showed the world that she was in charge. The advisors of her young brother hated this. They wanted a king they could control, not a strong queen who thought for herself. These men began to work secretly against her, telling lies to the public and saying that she did not respect Egyptian traditions. Slowly, they turned the people and the army against her. After 3 years of struggle, Cleopatra was forced to flee for her life. She ran away to Syria, leaving her palace and her throne behind. She was only 21 years old, and she had lost everything. But Cleopatra was not the kind of woman who would sit and cry in despair. Even in exile, she began to make a bold plan. She needed an army, and she needed a powerful ally. She began talking to local leaders and collecting soldiers, determined to return to Egypt and take back what was hers. While Cleopatra was in Syria, a very famous Roman general named Julius Caesar arrived in Alexandria. Caesar was one of the most powerful men on earth, and he had come to Egypt chasing his enemy Pompey. When Cleopatra heard that Caesar was staying in the royal palace, she knew this was her golden chance. If she could win Caesar's support, she could become the queen of Egypt once again. But there was a massive problem. Her brother's soldiers controlled every gate of the city. If Cleopatra tried to walk into Alexandria, they would capture and kill her immediately. She needed a clever and dangerous plan, and Cleopatra was a master of strategy. One night, a small boat silently approached the palace. A man got out carrying a large rolled-up carpet. He told the guards it was a precious gift for the Roman general. When the man was finally inside Caesar's private room, he unrolled the carpet, and to Caesar's absolute surprise, Cleopatra stepped out. She had been hiding inside the carpet the whole time. Caesar was stunned and deeply impressed by her bravery and her wit. Cleopatra spoke to him in beautiful Latin, showing him that she was not just a queen, but an intelligent and charming woman who understood politics. Caesar decided right then that he would help her. A dangerous war followed in the streets of Alexandria, during which the great library was caught in a fire. But eventually, Caesar's army defeated her brother's forces. Her brother died in the Nile River, and Cleopatra was once again the undisputed queen of Egypt. Cleopatra and Caesar became very close, and she even had a son with him, whom she named Caesarion, or Little Caesar. She eventually traveled to Rome to stay in Caesar's villa, but her presence made many Romans angry. They did not like the idea of a foreign queen having so much influence over their leader. Then, in the year 44 BC, the world was shocked when Julius Caesar was murdered by a group of his own senators. Cleopatra was terrified for her life and her son's future, so she quickly fled Rome and returned to Egypt. After Caesar's death, the Roman world was divided, and another powerful general named Mark Antony came to the east. He needed Egypt's wealth for his wars, and Cleopatra knew she needed another strong Roman ally. When they met in the city of Tarsus, Cleopatra arrived on a magnificent ship with purple sails and silver oars. She was dressed like a goddess, and Mark Antony was completely amazed by her. They fell deeply in love and spent years together in Alexandria. They had 3 children and lived a life of great luxury, but this relationship made the leaders in Rome, especially a man named Octavian, very angry. Octavian told the people that Mark Antony had forgotten his duty to Rome because of a foreign queen. This led to a final massive battle at Actium. Cleopatra and Antony were defeated, and they had to retreat to Egypt as their world began to fall apart. In the year 30 BC, Octavian's army finally arrived in Egypt. Knowing that all was lost, Mark Antony took his own life, dying in Cleopatra's arms. Cleopatra was now a prisoner in her own city. She knew that Octavian wanted to take her back to Rome in chains to show her off like a trophy in a parade. She could not accept such a deep shame. On the 12th of August, at the age of 39, the last queen of Egypt died. Some say she allowed a poisonous snake to bite her, while others say she used a secret poison. She chose to die on her own terms rather than live as a prisoner. With her death, the long history of independent Egypt ended, and the land of the pharaohs became a province of the Roman Empire. But my friends, why do we still tell her story after 2,000 years? We remember Cleopatra because she was a woman who used the power of her mind in a world dominated by men. She showed us that being smart, learning many languages, and studying books can truly change a person's life. She was not perfect and she made many mistakes, but she never gave up on her country or herself until the very end. And as you listen to this story today to improve your English, remember that you are doing something very similar. Like Cleopatra, you are learning a new language to open new doors and to make yourself stronger. Every new word you understand and every story you follow is a small victory on your journey. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today at the English Listening Library. If you enjoyed this long journey through history, please give this video a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support allows us to create more content for your learning. Tell me in the comments, what did you think of Cleopatra's clever plan? Until next time, my friends, keep listening, keep learning, and keep moving forward. I believe in you.